Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Residents of Windsor, Essex are planning crosses in the memory of those who have died due to an overdose. We share with you the story of one family tonight. Plus, community members have been calling for the city to fix up the historic bandshell in Jackson Park for years. That concept is coming back up at a committee meeting next week. We tell you more on that. And the Harrow Fair officially starts today. We share with you the beauty routine for some of the fair's star participants. Today is International Overdose Awareness Day. And to mark it locally, an installation that resembles a graveyard was placed in front of All Saints Anglican Church. The display will be in place for the next 2 weeks. It's meant to bring attention to those who've died over the past year due to the opioid crisis in Windsor, Essex.
This event is called You Are Not Alone. If you look at the number of crosses that we have throughout All Saints Church on the lawns, you will realize the number of losses and those that are experiencing losses from addiction because they are not alone, right? So the biggest thing is to end the stigma and bring people together to show awareness and get them the help and resources that they need. We need people to get help if they need it.
The reason why we started all of this was to remember Joe. And unfortunately, we lost him to the addiction of opioids on Christmas Day on 2020. I didn't really know how to keep his memory alive. And so we were kind of challenged to bring awareness to the community. And I think you don't ever think it's going to fall in your backyard. And when it did, I think we really just struggled with how to get him help in the first place, but then what do we even do afterwards? So bringing it out to the community, letting us have a stage where people can talk to each other and just kind of connect, that was our whole focus.
They were both my childhood friends, Brent Adams and Alan Bertrand. They both died from the opioid crisis, so both of them were actually the two people throughout my entire teenage years that I think they were probably the only people that ever understood, and ultimately stood by me no matter who I was or who I thought I was. And suffering through addiction myself, I think that, sorry about this, the main reason for me even putting those names on the cross is because I can eat today and I can breathe, and I have a chance to possibly do something with the community to help.
Addictions and mental health are issues that families grapple with, and providing love to someone who is an addict and does have mental health conditions is always a challenge, and community support for caregivers as well as your family member is so important. So it's a difficult process to go through, but you try to provide the love and the support as best you can without enabling and providing them the substances which can kill them and do kill them. My son died of an overdose because that was the kind of street drug that he was able to afford and get.
As Ontario reviews all of its consumption and treatment sites, Windsor's Safe Point is still awaiting approval. If approved, it would include some much-needed funding. As the waiting continues, the need for service increases as the opioid crisis worsens.
This is the urgent public health needs site is running on bare bones, right? So there's the opportunity with additional funding to add more things and more services into the site. So increasing what wraparound services might look like.
These reviews take a year plus to complete, and so it's no surprise that the review is comprehensive and it's in depth, and it takes a long time.
Earlier this month, the province launched that review after a fatal shooting near a Toronto consumption and treatment site that happened in July. Windsor's first drug consumption site opened at the end of April with federal approval as an urgent public health needs site. The Windsor-Essex County Health Unit submitted an application for provincial approval last summer, but it's still waiting for the green light. In a statement, the health unit says it continues to use its own funding as it waits for provincial dollars to keep it going. The health unit board has approved a plan to look for a different location while continuing to offer the services at Wyandotte Street in the meantime. When you move into a new rental unit, a lot of us expect a fridge and stove to be part of the deal, but that's not the case in many Windsor-Essex Community Housing Corporation units. One new tenant says she wants to see that changed. CBC's Kathleen Sailors has been following this story, and she joins us now live. Kathleen, what happened with this tenant?
Well, Meg, Anissa Duma learned of this policy when she moved into what would become her new home. Although the unit was staged with appliances, she was told they wouldn't be staying. A few days later, she moved in without a fridge or a stove. She says it was a scramble to find those crucial appliances.
It was pretty chaotic. Most people, when they move, they just have to worry about unpacking and getting their family, used to being in a new place. And I couldn't even do that really because I didn't have anything here for me and my kids. I couldn't cook any dinners or meals. I couldn't store any food. So we had to spend a lot of money on takeout every day until I was able to find someone that could donate these things to me. And it took a toll on us. My kids couldn't come home for like the first week or two that we were here.
So what does community housing have to say about this?
Well, the situation is pretty typical. The CEO of the Windsor-Essex Community Housing Corporation, Cynthia Summers, said that this has always been the policy.
In apartments, for example, there'll traditionally be appliances provided. In some of the portfolio with townhouses, they're provided, and then in some of the detached homes and some of the townhouses, they're not provided. If tenants can't afford to get a fridge or a stove, we can assist them with that. We can have them reach out. As you'd know, we have a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, so we can connect them to get the appliances if need be.
About 2,100 units in local community housing come without a fridge or a stove. That's all the detached or semi-detached homes. In the London area, the Social Housing Corporation has a similar policy. Duma says she did receive a gift card from Habitat, but when we spoke with the CEO of Habitat for Humanity, she said the supply of secondhand appliances has always been a struggle and they desperately need more donations. When we visited there this week, there were several fridges, but only one dryer, and no stoves or washing machines. Through a few different sources, Duma has now purchased 3 of the 4 appliances she needed. But she says this policy really needs to change because of the people community housing is there to help.
Well, thanks so much for that, Kathleen. That is Kathleen Sailors reporting in studio tonight. Well, Windsor saw lots of trees come down during last week's wind and rain. Some residents are wondering why the city isn't doing more to cut or trim trees before they fall during severe storms.
We're all talking among ourselves, knowing that this was a potential hazard. We had contacted the city of Windsor numerous times regarding this tree because it would literally arch right over the road. As you can see, literally arch, and it was top heavy.
The city's forester says while his team addresses complaints based on priority, it's possible that due to a high workload related to the recent storms, they haven't reached all sites with reported issues. Windsor residents are urged to continue to contact 311 with potential hazardous tree issues they spot across the city. Members of Windsor's Black community are once again voicing their support for the restoration of the bandshell in Jackson Park. It's a 64-year-old structure that was center stage for many Emancipation Day festivals decades ago. Since then, it's been neglected for years. As Dale Molnar tells us, there could be new life for it as City Committee plans to look at what's next for the historic structure.
I look at that and I just see so much potential.
Actor Leslie McCurdy, who is also the chair of the Black Council of Windsor-Essex, says the bandshell could be used for outdoor performances.
And I know there's the thought that there will be a stage in the new downtown Esplanade that's being built, but I've seen the plans for that. It's kind of just a little stage. It's not something that would have equipment to really do full productions, whereas this potentially could.
The bandshell used to serve as the focal point for events at numerous Emancipation Day events throughout the 1960s. Motown greats and other luminaries have graced the stage, so it's on the city's heritage register. And people in the Black community say it should be restored to preserve the city's history.
Different organizations have tried for years to get the city to come and look at restoring the bandshell. That's where the Miss Sepia contest was. That was where the Sunday service was.
But it would cost around $100,000 just to study what needs to be done to restore it, and a lot of things would have to be considered during the restoration.
I think the initial first steps are to determine the suitability of the structure itself and what it would take to make it a usable space, a modern space that would comply with current accessibility standards, while certainly also taking into consideration that there are heritage components of the structure. So it's very much that initial stages that is what we have to determine first.
McCurdy and Talbot say any money spent on the bandshell would be recouped by the tourism it would attract.
I always say that only with great risk comes great reward. So, and you have to spend money to make money.
I think that would be a feather in the city of Windsor's hat to have this bandshell redone.
Councillor Kieran McKenzie requested the report last year. He's in favor of moving ahead.
I think we all understand in the community the heritage and historic value of that bandshell, of all of the things that have happened happened in this space over the years. So let's take a real good look at what it would take for us to return and restore this space into something that the community can once again be proud of.
The Community Services Standing Committee will receive the report next Wednesday. The committee doesn't have to take any action on the report, but if they do recommend that the city spend the money on the study, the report still has to go to City Council for approval. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Idalia is now a tropical storm and is whipping the Carolinas with torrential rains. It passed Florida yesterday as a Category 3 hurricane, causing major damage. Winds were blowing at over 200 kilometers per hour. Damage in Florida is estimated at $9.6 billion. We caught up with Ontario-based Mark Robinson, who is a meteorologist with the Weather Network. He's down in Crystal River, Florida, where the cleanup has begun.
Taking a look around, I mean, you can see a little bit of the flooding situation right there, but it's the flood that happened and when the storm surge came in, it didn't come in with the battering waves that we often have with these hurricanes. What it came in with was just flooding. It's been wrecking a lot of people's first floors, especially places that are down closer to the coast. But it's there's been not a lot of damage to the town itself because they didn't experience really heavy winds here. So a lot of the power is on here, and there are hydro crews working to get power restored to some of the areas that are a little closer to the water itself. A lot of cleanup going on, but as I said, it's a lot of inside house issues, trying to get those houses dried up before the mold sets in.
It's official. Being late on returning library books will no longer cost you anything in Windsor. Windsor Public Library has moved ahead with eliminating fines for overdue materials. Late fines were put on pause in 2020 during the pandemic, but the library board has now decided to keep the policy indefinitely.
Some people just don't want to walk into the library knowing that they have a late fee. Other people can't afford to pay those late fees. And, as a library, we really want to keep those doors open and be a welcoming space for everybody, to come in, read, learn, discover.
Before 2020, Windsor Public Library was charging adults 40 cents a day for overdue books. But the acting CEO says revenue from late fines was already decreasing prior to the pandemic. Library administration reports that eliminating late fines means a $65,000 reduction in annual revenue, which is less than 1% of the library's yearly budget. But don't go thinking you can just keep an overdue book forever. The library will still charge you to replace lost material. A book that is overdue for more than 41 days is considered lost. The board is also considering waiving late fines before 2020 as well. Well, the 169th Harrow Fair starts today. For most of us, it's a fun event to finish off the summer, but for others, it's the culmination of months of hard work. Last night, the Essex 4-H Club gathered for some last-minute prep. Before their big debut, the cows are in need of some beautifying. I headed out to Ryder Farms in Amherstburg to learn all about the primping and priming. It's a big weekend for Scout. And with all big events, the dairy calf needs to look good.
After they are washed, they are blow-dried, they are conditioned.
The hair on the cow's back is then brushed up, trimmed, and hairsprayed.
This is entirely beautifying and making sure the cow is as comfortable as possible when out in the ring.
It's one of the last finishing touches Ryder Farms is doing on the eve of the Harrow Fair. Members of Essex 4-H Association, which encourages young people to develop skills through animal agriculture, will compete in the fair using the farm's cows. The salon treatment could be the difference between a first and second place.
So by clipping her off, you're able to see more definition between her hips and her rump, so that it's easier for the judge to see it.
The beautifying is one of the last preparation steps. Months of hard work has gone into this weekend. These girls have been practicing with their cows 3 times a week.
Trying to get her to walk quietly and slowly, that's the goal. And ideally when you are getting judged, if the judge tells you to stop, you want their front feet to be squared and you want their back foot slightly open to the judge.
Jordan Wright has been showing cows for 20 years. She's one of a few seasoned vets who will be competing this weekend.
Yeah, we've been practicing for a very long time. Grace really practices all the time. Like, I live across the street and I just look out the window and she's outside.
Grace, you're out here a lot?
It is a lot of effort. It does have your tolls. Some days are not your best days. Some days are not your best animals days.
But this weekend's competition will be a first for some, calves included.
The one that just stood up there, that's hers. So Sparrow is a girl and she's 2 months old. She was born June 30th and she's very friendly. She likes to lick.
Where's your cow?
He is all the way in the corner.
Okay.
His name is Boyd. He is a boy. He's a little jumpy sometimes and energetic. So like when all the other calves start jumping, like that one, he'll start jumping, but when I'm here, he'll behave because I whisper in his ear. He's like, so when I whisper in his ear, I whisper like, stay calm and this is not to fool around.
Isabel Holzer is excited to show her first cow, but
I'm a little just like worried that he'll like rodeo like that cow is doing right now. I don't want him to do that, and I'm just really like hoping he is just going to be fine in the Harrow Fair and like do good, get me a certain place. I'm aiming for first or second place.
Of course, thoughts are on the competition, but these female farmers say it's much more than that.
You learn responsibilities of how to take care of animals and especially where your food comes from.
The kids entering this, honestly, at the end of the day, yeah, showing a cow is great, but it's the leadership, the friendships, the hard work, the dedication. These kids learn that by putting hard work into it, they get out of it.
Well, I hope you got a chance to see the blue supermoon last night. It was absolutely beautiful. But if you missed it, we have some gorgeous pictures you might like coming up. Well, that blue supermoon created the perfect backdrop last night for some amazing photos. This video was taken by our very own Mike Evans. Talented Mike capturing airplanes and Canada geese flying directly in front of that supermoon. It was the closest full moon of the year, making it appear bigger and brighter. The next blue supermoon won't be until January 2037. Well, Colette, did you see some of those photos? How gorgeous are those? I was driving out in Amherstburg late last night. Now, as you know, it's pretty dark out there in the county, but that moon lit up the road as if it was a roadside light.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible, wasn't it? And yes, he is very talented, Mike. Those are amazing images there that you've captured. I found that there's just at times just a little puff of cloud, and so as you waited for that cloud to just move away, the brightness was even that much more apparent when it became clear in focus. So really, really fantastic. And if you did miss it, you know, you still have a chance tonight. It may not be at its peak, but you still have that opportunity tonight and the sky conditions as well. So Idalia now post-tropical in terms of its properties. Still some heavy rain and high surf and winds there along the coast of North Carolina and Virginia, but it is pulling away eastward. So that track looking like it won't have an impact on Atlantic Canada. Sometimes these things can take that curve towards the northeast, kind of moving out there to where Franklin is. And speaking of Franklin, I just want to show you a broader perspective of what's happening because it is so busy now and it continues to be in the Atlantic with our tropical activity. So Franklin losing its tropical properties there. This is disturbance number 1, and it looks like it's not going to be a problem. That used to be Gert. And then there's Tropical Storm Jose. Keeping an eye on that one. It looks like for the short term anyway, though, tracking northward. And so where I want to take your attention is Disturbance 1, just off the coast, west coast of Africa.
They're not doing like box.
That is one that could become something to watch down the road, likely to become a tropical depression in the next 24 to 48 hours there. Back home, we get to just enjoy tranquil conditions. Clear skies tonight will make for another cool-ish night overnight. But it means a lot of sunshine, high to very high UV index, so you do have to watch out for that. We will get some fair weather cloud coming in, not Friday, but Saturday. With that, a slight chance that we could have some isolated showers into the afternoon. Be forewarned. Otherwise, you know, we have a heat dome that will be setting up, and that's just going to be pushing those temperatures up. They're very comfortable right now. We're in the low 20s, but overnight temperatures, there'll be some single digits on the board again. Windsor, 12 degrees for that overnight reading. Leamington faring just a little bit better. And then we start that climb. So Friday 24, still low humidity, still very comfortable, but Saturday we're likely into the 30s. Yes, the second day of September. And I'll tell you, as we move forward to Sunday and Labor Day, that's when we're going to see that humidex value getting up there towards 40. Quite likely we'll see a heat warning issued. And as far as records go, at this time of year, many of them around 35 to 37. So our best chance is probably going to be Monday in Windsor because it's a little lower that day, around 32. So that is how it's looking. The summer heat is coming in September.
That is an absolute beautiful Labor Day forecast we're looking at there. Thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
New York City is celebrating a staple performance in Times Square, a cowboy with no clothes. We have more on that coming up. Times Square in New York is marking what it calls an important milestone, a cowboy that's celebrating 25 years in the buff.
We are celebrating today the 25th anniversary of the Naked Cowboy.
So I hitched a plane to Venice Beach.
The street performer has been a fixture at the downtown spot. Robert Burke wears a hat, boots, and a pair of white underwear while he sings his songs. The Naked Cowboy has been thrilling tourists since 1998, no matter what the weather. Burke says people say he looks exactly the same as when he was younger and that he's doing his best to keep it all together. Well, aren't we all, Robert? Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.